He was just the third ever guest on this very show almost 3 years ago, and we wanted to have him back because he and his band are celebrating 35 years of hits together this year. I'm talking about the lead singer of Shenandoah, Marty Raybon, joining us on the Honky Tonk Time Machine. Marty, we're excited to have you back. How have you been?
I'm doing great, Glenn. They say 3 times a charm, so that we started off good.
You betcha. I know we're about to get into the holidays too here. You excited for that?
You know, I really am. This is without a doubt my favorite time of year. I love. First off, I love the fall of the year, and then when Thanksgiving comes around, you know that Christmas is right around the corner. You know, and I don't really get lost in the hustle and bustle of. I'm part of it. I love it. You know, I love the shimmying around to try to see if you can get gifts and getting out in the crowds and all that other kind of stuff. I actually enjoy that stuff. I truly do, and it honest and truly is probably my favorite time of year.
Your 35-year anniversary tour is going on now, but it'll kind of stop right before Christmas. Is that when you kind of lay low a little bit more, get with family, and start going into Christmas mode?
Yeah, you know, it's the craziest thing. You know, we've worked like mercenaries this year. I mean, we really have. I mean, we've probably done more dates this year than we ever have. It kind of gives us a little bit of an opportunity to catch our breath, for the holidays, and then to, kind of fire back up, because I think we start back next year. We do the Huckabee show the 27th of January, and then it's Katie Bar the door for the rest of the year. So, we're just really excited about it. We got a brand new single that's coming. It's a tune called Revival. In fact, Tyler Hubbard, one of the guys with Florida Georgia Line, was one of the writers on this, along with 3 other guys. And man, it's just neat. It's really a song that's about the coming out of COVID and everybody being able to get together. And it starts off. It's been a long year. We can all agree, but it's great to be back in Tennessee. Ain't no place I'd rather be sitting next to you, next to me. Oh. How you been? How you been? How you been? Picking right up with some good old friends. Been so long it should be a sin, but here we are again. We're having a revival. A good Lord, hallelujah. These Red Dirt Road disciples got spirits running through us. It's rowdy reminiscing and tailgate conversation on this down-home hometown congregation. We're having a revival. And, man, we're really excited about it, and we've been playing it live for the last little bit, and which we'll come with that the first of the year, getting to radio and everything. But, it sure does seem like the crowd. I mean, before it's all over with, they're raising their hands and, doing that revival pump, that everybody does. And it's a tune that has got a lot of gospel overtones to it. The lingo that you'll hear at most churches.
Nice little callback in that line of the next to you, next to me. We've heard that before, haven't we?
Yeah, sure have. When that was pitched to us, that wasn't the line that was in there. There was a line that was similar. We kind of put the sitting next to you, next to me. We kind of put that in there to,
I like
just kind of, change it up a little bit. We didn't get writers credit for it, but, we thought if we could throw it in there, it might be kind of neat.
I like that quite a bit, and in fact, when we put this show together, we're definitely going to play Revival and let our fans hear it, let your fans hear it, and definitely have them let us know what they think about it. So that's something you're excited about. You got a new song, you're out on tour, you got lots going on right now, Marty.
Yeah, and you were speaking about the Every Road CD. We had an opportunity to get in the studio with a bunch of buddies of ours in the business, Zach Brown, Blake Shelton, Lady A. Dirks, and a gal that I've absolutely fell in love with, Ashley McBride, and Carly Pierce has been a friend of ours for years and years and years. In fact, her mama would bring her to the show several years back, and every time, especially when, because she's from Kentucky, and usually every time we hit Kentucky, they'd come out, and she'd sing Allison's part on Vicinity of the Heart on the show. Mm-hmm. So she's part of it as well, and Brad Paisley's on the record, and man, I don't want to leave anybody out. Cody Johnson's on it. Love Cody, man. I think he's probably one of the freshest and the hottest things going right now. I really dig what Cody's doing.
I do too. When we last talked, you were just about to release that album, and since then we've gotten to hear all these songs that you put together with all these artists. I know you had a lot of fun recording that.
It was. The only thing that I really hated about it was us not being able to, because it was COVID.
Yeah.
We did it in 20, and so therefore, folks wouldn't come to the studio, like Charles, Lady A&M, they wanted to do it at their place, and so we sent the tracks over, and then Dirks did his in Colorado, and we sent, down to Georgia. We sent Zach's stuff, and man, really hated that because that's really where the camaraderie of friendships and buddies and all that kind of stuff. That's where you really get to excel and get to know each other a little bit better. When you're hanging around the studio with each other, and you. I don't know. We always like to have a lot of fun. We poke fun at one another a great deal when we're doing that anyway, because although as serious as it is, I think we use a lot of humor to kind of exhaust the nerves and the intensity of look, man, this has got to be right,
Sure.
And so therefore, you get a chance to do that with other artists, and we didn't get a chance to do that. Like we'd planned, but then again, nobody planned on COVID either. But hey, it was still a lot of fun, and phone calls and text messages and stuff like that. Since then and before then was good too, and it's certainly an album that we'll always cherish. Honestly, we just kind of wished it had seen a little bit more of the light of day. But then again, we didn't have anything to do with COVID, and it's just one of them kind of things that happens, So we just, we pick up and go on, and we got this new one coming that we're awfully excited about. In fact, Billy Dean's got a cut on this new record as well too. It's called Handkerchief, and man, it's just it'll remind you. Of course, it's a different angle, but it'll remind you a whole lot of a Mama Knows type thing. It says, you had a handkerchief, like most grandpas do. He said, one of these days you're going to need one too. Like when your baby girl puts a wedding dress on, or your last child moves away from home, or saying your goodbyes to a loved one that's gone.
I love that.
Yeah, it's just really a great tune. Billy Dean's a really good friend of ours, and we're doing a country comeback tour with him and Wade Hayes. And we done several dates this past year. We got some more, planned for 23 as well. And we were out in Nevada, and Billy was doing sound check in the middle of it. He goes, hey. And I was sitting on the drum riser. He said, hey, look, man, I got a tune for you. I said, okay. I said, are you done sound checking? He goes, well, yeah, I mean, I can be. I said, well, good. Then play it for me. So he, right there with the guitar, he just played it for me. And I said, man, are you doing anything with that? Did anybody looking at that? He said, no, man. He said, I knew coming out here, I was going to play it for you. I said, man, Billy, don't let that get anywhere. I said, man, a dollar against a donut, we'll cut it. He said, well, you can have it. And, man, I sure am glad he did. It's a good little old tune as well, too.
That's great. I'm excited for that. Billy and Wade are both friends of the show as well. They both come on shortly after you did, actually, and they're just great guys, great musicians, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And that's really kind of what you find in country music. There's a lot of fellas that they get out here, and look, for one thing, every one of you's got the same ambitions and the same things in common. So therefore, there's a conversation starter, in anything that you would tell, road-wise, or, what'd you do last, or what are you doing, and what's going on, So therefore, there's always an open spot for a conversation, and before it's all over, you wind up having a really lengthy conversation in that. You get to know a lot about, other acts, and that at one time was nothing more than just an acquaintance that's turned out to be really, really good, dear friends. And I wouldn't give anything in the world for that. For the past 35 years, we've been real fortunate enough to do that. Man, we're fortunate enough to befriend Haggard and Jones and Vern Gosden and of course the Oaks, and it's just it's been a really, really nice, exciting 35 years to be able to do what we've done, and to be fortunate enough to do what we've been able to do. I I'd have to say first and foremost that it's the tunes that's got us there. It's the tunes that's made it, relevant, for us to be out anywhere. The Mama Knows and the 2 Dozen Roses and Church on Cumberland Road and Vicinity of the Heart and Moon Over Georgia. Just songs that's been able to stand the test of time, and it's allowed us to continue to be out there and doing what we love. We still love this stuff. Still love people. Somebody asked me the other day, said, "You think about retirement?" I said, "What? And travel?" We do that now.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, 35 years. It's kind of hard to wrap my mind around that it's been 35 years. Last time we talked a lot about your reunion in 2014, but we didn't get into much of the beginnings of the band and how it all started back there in the mid 80s. How did Shenandoah get together?
Well, let me say this first. I don't think anybody that ever starts a career, a Ray Price, a George Jones, Charlie Pride, Millsap, I don't think anybody, ever said, man, 40, 50 years, 55 years from now, this is what the 60 years. I don't think anybody starts off and says, 60 years from now, this is what we're going to be doing. I think you just kind of go from day to day, and that's really kind of how we started out. When we got in the studio for the first time, the legendary producer Rick Hall at Fame brought us in along with Robert Byrne that co-produced, and we started the process of trying to find tunes, and we really actually had felt like there was a void in country music because what they say nowadays, the bro country and stuff. When we first started, they were calling it middle of the road country, because you had a lot of country acts that were cutting more pop sounding country.
Yeah.
And then, you had your traditionalists, your Randy Travis and your Alan Jacksons and people like that was doing what they were doing. And we felt like, if there's any way in the world that we could slide into that void in between there, we could find that Mama Knows or 2 Dozen Roses or A Sunday in the South, and that was all the process of us trying to find the tunes to do that. And it took us a couple albums, to find that vein. But when we did, we kind of felt like, that's what we need to keep, continue to, to look for in a tune. Let it say something to somebody. Make sure it says something, that it speaks to people, because music will either make you laugh or make you cry, but it's got to do one or the other. It's really got to, a great song. That's the difference between a good song and a great song. A great song will move you to the point that you get lost in a lyric, and I've lived through that. Or, man, I know how that feels. That's when you've got a hold of something. Or what, man, I did that when I was a kid. Or what, man, I do that today. And that's, when people talk about commercialism, I think that's the heart of commercialism, is when people are able to get in there and get after it and realize that, look, hey, this song has substance to me because I can identify with it. I really can. Man, there's such things as ditties, as they call them. When we wrote If Bubba Can Dance, we knew If Bubba Could Dance, it was just a ditty. But during the time when we wrote Bubba, the dance craze was going on. So therefore, it made it the number one record. But that's only because what it was. I mean, we don't get a whole lot of requests, for If Bubba Can Dance compared to 2 Dozen Roses.
That makes a lot of sense. And something that I've noticed when I look up and down an artist's catalog, it's like, man, I can't believe that song went to number one, but that one didn't. And you see that quite a bit. And I think you've kind of helped explain that it's kind of a sign of the time and what was going on at the time that has a lot to do with it. Now, how did the band get its name? How'd you land on Shenandoah?
Actually, Rick Hall had a production company, and that's who we signed with, and they had a deal with CBS. And at the time that we did the deal and the time we were recording, we didn't have a name. And we even run on the local radio station where we live, WLAY. It was, named the band contest. And, we didn't have one. Well, we had our first record, They Don't Make Love Like We Used To, was going to press at 5:30 that afternoon. Well, at 5 o'clock, Rick called earlier in the day and said, look, everybody be in my office at 5 o'clock. We got a choice between two names, and we're going to pick one of them because y'all got a record going to press this afternoon at 5:30 in Carrollton, Georgia, and there's got to be a name on it. So let's have that meeting. So we did, and when we got up there, which now he claimed he got the name out of a Time Life Western book. Now, the only thing I've ever heard about Shenandoah was on the Eastern Seaboard, but nonetheless, he claimed he got it out of a Time Life Western book. But anyhow, we get in there, and he gave Rick Blackburn at that time was the president of CBS Records, and he was on the phone as well too. And so we were doing a conference call with Blackburn, and Rick said, "Well, all right, here's the names. Y'all ready?" And I said, "Well, yeah." He said, "All right, it's either Shenandoah or the Rhythm Rangers." And we kind of looked at each other about that. I said, "Man, I ain't no Rhythm Ranger." I said, "That don't even sound right." And which, honestly, truly, we think they just threw Rhythm Rangers out there because they wanted to use Shenandoah. and and somebody even said, "Are you serious?" And they go, "Yeah, look, it's either one or the other. Now, which one is it?" And it like kind of giving us that, that opportunity that you ain't going to get a chance to vote on it. It's going to be one or the other. And I said, "Man, I said, I don't even know how to spell Shenandoah, but I like that a whole lot better than I do the rhythm." I said, "Man, I don't even know what a Rhythm Ranger is." Oh. And so that's actually how we came up with it. I say that's how it was given to us.
Yeah. I'm glad your fans are glad that you chose Shenandoah and not the Rhythm Rangers. That sounds like a superhero outfit or something.
Yeah, like a Tubby toy or something.
Yeah. Well,
the Tubby toys.
From there, the hits started rolling, Marty. I mean, Mama Knows, Church on Cumberland Road, Sunday in the South. You just started rolling them out one right after the other. And you talked about that kind of middle-of-the-road sound that you had. And I'd say that's a good way to put it because you had the harmonies of, like, the pop-leaning groups like Restless Heart, but you had that traditional country sound and lyrics like, the Alan Jacksons and George Strait. So you guys sure knew how to put music together.
Brother, we was just real fortunate. I mean, we really were. Rick was a good song man. Robert Byrne was one of the writers on 2 Dozen Roses and about 3 or 4 other songs that we had for singles. And, man, Robert was a great song guy, too. And the one thing that I'll say that wound up being an absolute treasure to us was, they really actually taught us how to pick a good tune when we heard it, because you get pitched tunes all the time, and somebody said, "Man, do you think this is something y'all would cut?" Well, they want an answer. You think, y'all would cut it? Well, man, I don't think so. Man, it just really don't sound like anything we do. Now that, don't keep it from being a good song. But our purpose in that and trying to stay out there in front of people and stuff like that and be able to give people, everything in the world we can, you got to find the great ones, But He Stopped Loving Her Today, The Green, Green Grass at Home, Bridge Over Troubled Waters. Man, those kind of songs that, when people hear it, they go, "Man, I love that." And I loved it the first time I ever heard it. That's the kind of tune, that you're looking for, that it continues to draw. And again, the Lord has truly blessed us with that and blessed us in that.
Pick some good ones. Church on Cumberland Road was your first number one, and great songwriters, too. I know Bob DePiro is one of the more well-known songwriters in the business, and there were some others on that one, too. But great songwriters, great songs, and Church on Cumberland Road was your first number one.
It sure was. Even at the time, it was just really, it was honestly really kind of hard to believe, because, look, Rick didn't want us to cut it.
Oh, yeah?
Robert did. Robert's the one that found it. And Dennis Robbins and John Scott Sherrill was the other 2 writers. And Dennis had pitched it to Robert. And anyway, so we played it in a song list. And Rick said, "Hey, whoa, these boys, look, that ain't nobody going to get drunk and go to church. That ain't what that's about." And we said, "Rick, that's not what it's saying. This is a guy that, it's the night before he gets, it's like a bachelor party or something like that, maybe, or and he's just going out for one last fling before he gets married. That's what it is. Ain't nobody get drunk going to church." He goes, Marty, people don't do that. I said, Rick, I don't think the song's saying. Does anybody else believe that that's what it's saying? And I don't hear it that way either. I kind of hear it the night before, kind of sowing all the oats and knowing that you got the rest of your life to be married. That's what it sounds like to me. And Rick said, well, I can tell you one thing, y'all can cut it, but it ain't going to go nowhere. And then, of course, Rick, when it went number one, he said, I'll tell you before anybody tells me anything, I'll eat crow and say I was wrong on it. Now, I'll tell you another thing, too, right before that. Or I think it was right after it was Sunday in the South, if I ain't bad wrong. Maybe it was right after it. Yeah, it was right after.
Right after, church. Yeah.
Rick didn't like church, Sunday in the South either.
Man.
He said, look, he said, man, I'm going to tell you something. He said, boys, that ain't going to get played past the Mason-Dixon line. And we said, Rick, are you serious? And he goes, yeah, them people up there don't know anything about Southern living. And said, I guarantee you, I'm telling you, you boys can cut it. In fact, I'll even cut the tracks on it. I think it's a good song, but I just don't think anybody's going to cut it. Going to let it go. And said, well, Rick, man, it's really it's kind of about where we're from. If it don't say anything else, and it says something to us, In fact, we even did the video right here in Tuscumbia, Alabama. The county seat of Colbert County where we live, and we done the video there, and then all of a sudden, I was doing radio calls and stuff like that, and YNY at that time in New York, they're not there anymore, not playing country anyway. It went number one, and I'd done an interview at YNY in New York, and I called Rick before I called and done the radio interview, and I said, Rick, you ain't gonna believe this. And he goes, what is it? And I said, Sunday in the South is number one at YNY. He said, New York? I said, yeah, it's number one. I said, now here's the stinger. It was number one last week too, Rick. He goes, are you kidding me? I said, yeah. I said, are they not above the Mason-Dixon? So he laughed, and he said, I missed another, didn't I? I said, well, it sure looks like it, Rick, but hey, we still win for it. I said, so good luck, man. You cut some great tracks on it. But, yeah, there was a lot of funny stuff that Rick was one of those kind of people that you had to know him, and you just had to. Rick would cut records on the theory of elimination. And he'd put things on a record, and you'd think, hey, he's not going to leave that, is he? And then when it was all over, he wouldn't. But he kind of wanted it on there just in case. Mm-hmm. And it was a great experience. I loved working with Rick, and of course, you couldn't argue with the success that he had. He's what they call the Godfather here in Muscle Shoals of R&B music, Aretha Franklin and Wilson Pickett, Otis Redding, Cindy Stanton. The reason why there was an Allman Brothers was because of Rick Hall.
Yeah.
And the cat, he had it. But then again, Rick knew what he liked, and knew what would work. And something he'd tell you, he said, son, look, I ain't going to be right all the time, but I'm going to be right a bunch. And he proved that to be the truth. He was. I loved working with Rick. He really got it out of all of us. I mean, he really would. He'd say, boy, let me tell you something. If you don't take this stuff serious, I'm going to take it serious for you. And you ain't going to like me for it. Because you'd get in the studio and you go, Marty, you got to sing that again, son. It's a couple places in it flat and sharp. And I go, can you tell me where? No, I ain't going to tell you where it is. You just need to sing it again. And to tell you the truth, I actually learned how to sing in the studio working with Rick. The three albums that we did with him. And then I done a solo album with Rick as well, too, which was 4 albums that I was a part of that Rick did. And man, he was just, he was a great influence to us. And again, so was Robert Byrne. Robert had died early, and man, we hated that. He was so much a part of, but I mean, we had moved on from there, to Don Cook. At that time, we were being produced by Don Cook from Sony Tree and all. But Robert played probably just as big a part of our career in the early days as Rick did. And it was a good team. I don't know why in the world the label, decided to make a change. That, we didn't care for the change, but they went ahead and they done it anyway. And we still had some hits, but I don't know that the hits we had were sustainable. Except for "I Want to Be Loved Like That" Don cut. That certainly one. Which he cut several, but that certainly was one that continues to see the test of time.
Well, yeah, why don't we talk about that one? 1993, "I Want to Be Loved Like That." The lyrics, everything about it. That song is just beautiful.
Yeah, man, it sure is. And, man, it just tells such a wonderful story. And I don't reckon there's anybody in the world, I don't care how ugly or how hateful you are or how mean you are, I don't know if anybody don't want to be loved. And, man, that song, it just ministers, it really does. I mean, we find on our shows that, man, before we get to the last chorus, when that last chorus comes, everybody, "I want to be loved like that." And it's just really so nice to just sit and listen to them sing it. And you think, man, that's beautiful. That's just absolutely beautiful. Because that song's a touching song. It really is. Like I said, I don't know of anybody that wouldn't want to feel the security of knowing that people love you.
The reference to Natalie Wood and James Dean, it's just all around just a perfectly written and sung song. You talked about 2 Dozen Roses. Did you know that was going to be as big as it ended up being? When I think Shenandoah, that's the song I think of.
Honest and truly, we did.
Really?
Robert had played us a verse and a chorus, and they didn't have the second verse yet. And anyway, Mac McAnally was the other writer on that. Mac was playing acoustic on the early part of the session that we were doing. I said, "Mac, man, I'd give anything in the world, man, if you could write us something that, man, I could really get my teeth into." And so Mac tells this story. In fact, he's even got the little micro recorder tape. And he was laying in bed one night, and "I brought flowers to your door last night. I did you wrong, and I want to make it right. You say I'm not welcome here, and I know it ought to be perfectly clear. If I had 2 dozen roses and that's pretty much about where it stopped." And then he went on, and that was the first verse. And then when him and Robert got together, they had kind of fumbled through the chorus, and then they wrote the second verse. But anyway, that's how that happened. In fact, Mac, had told that we were doing a writer's round one night. He said, "That's the first time I'd ever heard that story." And I thought, man, he said, "You remember talking to me in the studio and asking me about?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, that's where that came from." And I said, "My goodness, I didn't know. That's through all the years, I never knew that." So anyway, I thought that was kind of neat the way that he come up with it, when it before it was done, we thought, man, you guys got to finish that. And then before it was all over, in fact, that was one of the last ones we cut on that session for the the Road Not Taken album.
Yeah. That album, 3 number 1s on one album, and then a couple others that were pretty big too. 2 Dozen Roses was gold. It's hard to top that for just your sophomore release there.
And that's what it was too, because at that time school was out at Columbia. They didn't really know. The only thing that we had on the first album was a tune called "She Doesn't Cry Anymore." Mm-hmm. And the first one, "They Don't Make Love Like We Used to," I think that bombed at 78 or 76, something like that. And then the next one was a tune called "Stop the Rain." It died at 48. So we didn't even make the top 40 on the first 2 releases. And then all of a sudden, here come "She Doesn't Cry Anymore," and it went to number 9. And then we did "Mama Knows" on the Road Not Taken album. "Mama Knows" went to number 4, and then we came with "Church on Come the Road" that went to 1, and it was there for 2 weeks. And then we came with "Sunday in the South," and then 2 Dozen Roses, and then a tune called "See If I Care."
Yep.
It was a nice little run. It really was.
The third album was Extra Mile, and the lead single from that was another number one, Next to You, Next to Me, which we kind of touched on a little bit earlier, but that's always been one of my favorites. It reminds me of just country living, growing old with the one you love, Next to You, Next to Me, I'll be happy.
Yeah, riding down the road in a pickup truck. Yeah. Man, who in high school that drove a pickup didn't have his girl sitting right beside him everywhere they went? I mean, she wasn't sitting on the other side of the truck.
Right.
She's right up, but she could change gears for you.
That's right. Same on the couch watching TV and everywhere else. Right next to you, next to me. So
the barbecue chicken in aluminum foil.
That always resonated with me too, I got to say.
Yeah, well, it did me too. I'm a big chicken eater. Fried, breaded, or baked. It doesn't make any difference to me.
And then the follow-up to that was Ghost in This House, written by another great songwriter, and Hugh Prestwood.
Well, a funny story about that, we'd had a song listening meeting, and it was over. And this was right when bag phones came out. You remember the old bag phone, the cell phone, the bag phone?
Barely, Marty.
Where you had to plug. Yeah. Well, I'm telling the age again. Ain't I? You had to plug it into the cigarette lighter.
Right.
And you had a black bag and folded over, and you'd have to push a button to turn it on. And anyway, so I had just left the studio, and the phone rang, and it was Rick. He goes, "Hey, where you at?" And I said, "Well," I'm out here on Avalon. I said, "I just left." He goes, "Turn around and come back." I said, "Okay." He said, "Me and Robert's still here. We need to play you something." And anyway, so I turned around and came back, and he said, "You need to listen to this tune." I said, "Okay. Is this one we heard?" He said, "No, we didn't want to play it for everybody. We want to play it for you." I said, "Okay. Is there a reason for that?" "No, didn't listen to it." So they played Ghost in This House, and they didn't say anything. And I said, "Fellas, I don't know whether you got a comment on this or not. Neither one of you say anything. You're not even making any kind of motions about it." I said, "Man, I really like that." And Robert said, "You do?" And Rick said, do you really like it? You like it enough to cut it?" I said, I think we need to cut it." He goes, "Well, it's about heartbreak, and it's about." I said, "Well, who in the world don't get their heart broke?" Mm-hmm. I don't mean their life's over. Who in the world don't get their heart broke? And said, "Well, man, we really want to cut it, but we didn't think the rest of the guys would feel the way that you do." I said, "Man, I guarantee the rest of the guys would have felt the same way." And then when we played it for everybody, everybody said, "Man, yeah. Man, who's this Hugh Prestwood guy? Man, let's find out what else he's got." And of course, he wrote "Hard Rock Bottom of Your Heart," "The Moon's Still Over His Shoulder," and man, the list goes on. He wrote the song "Remembers When." Huge. Man, he's just a huge songwriter. And but man, when he let us have that, in fact, Allison told me, said, I want to cut that too. That said, but I want to do it slower than y'all did. And then Allison Krause cut it, and she did. She cut it a whole lot slower than we did. Mm-hmm. But in fact, somebody told me the other day, said, when Allison came out with that tune, and then y'all recorded it, I said, "Well, we actually recorded it before she did." And said, "You did?" "Yeah, we did." "What is it? I mean, it's the same. It's the same song, right? Ghost in This House." "Yeah, we cut it, and then she cut it." "Oh, okay. Well, I thought Allison Krause did that." But that'll go to show you again the power of the song and the difference between who's popular at the time and when they come with it. It's just like a lot of folks think that Wagon Wheel was something new.
Yeah, that was an old song, wasn't it?
And everybody said, "Man, old Darius is man, he's killing that song, man. I like that new song," but Darius doesn't get thinking, man, that song's probably 25 years old.
Yeah.
But he did it, and then next thing you know, that's Darius Rucker's tune.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a Bob Dylan song that got turned into something else by Old Crow Medicine Show that eventually.
I was to say Old Crow cut it before he did.
Yeah. I think Bob Dylan had the lyrics a long, long time ago, and then Old Crow Medicine Show kind of did something with it, and Yeah, that's been around a long time. Love that song.
Yeah, I do too.
Speaking of Allison, you guys did Somewhere in the Vicinity of the Heart together in 1994. I just watched the music video again to that recently, and it was just so wonderfully done as well. What was it like working with her? And I'm sure that was a fun experience.
Yeah, because you know what a lot of people don't know about Allison. Allison is very, very jovial. I mean, she really is. You know, she seems awful quiet, and, you know, don't say much, and she doesn't. You know, but sometimes she can come up with some of the funniest, profound stuff you've ever heard in your life, and it's just kind of like, I don't know where she got that, but that is absolutely hilarious. And, you know, and of course the talent. I mean, that gal, man, you know, just being across from her on the mic, she was on one side, and they had a glass booth that separated us, you know, to get the separation from one mic to another. And, man, just to watch her when she's singing and listen to it when it's going down, I mean, it honest and truly, it was angelic. I mean, it really was. I mean, that gal, you know, she's a little bit of a perfectionist, too. She goes, no, okay, let me do that again. I don't like it. I go, Allison, what in the world are you going to do to fix that? Because that, no, and then she'd do something else. She'd go, well, no, that is really good. No, I still don't have it. Allison, okay, if you could better that. Hey, y'all keep that take, though.
Right. She is that good. I mean, she's won more Grammys than any country artist ever, and she deserves every single one of them. So.
Yeah, and I'm trying my best to talk her into doing another on this new album that we're doing because we hadn't finished cutting yet, and I'm doing my best to try to talk her into coming back, and let's give it one more whirl.
Well, keep us posted because that would be fantastic. In the meantime, tell me about I Got You, because that one of the writers on that was actually Teddy Gentry from Alabama, and I was wondering, why didn't Alabama just cut it? Or, you know, what's the story there?
Well, you know, I'd mentioned a while ago about some of the tunes that Robert Byrne, the producer, you know, had written, and that was another one that he had written with Teddy and Greg Fowler. And anyway, so they were over at Teddy's house, and you know, Teddy asked me to come over and sing some demos for him at his. You know, he got a recording studio in his basement, and said, "Man, I got some tunes. I'd give anything over if you'd sing the demos for me." And when I was over there, they were working on that. And anyway, so Robert said, "You think that's something y'all do, Marty?" I said, "Man, I tell you what, I really like it, Robert. I really do." I said, "Man, what I really like," I said, "Man, you could really turn Jim loose on the guitar on the end of that." I said, "Man, that could be an Allman Brother type anthem things, you know, that could really just smoke. It really could." And, you know, Jim Seals, our guitar player, was such an exceptional guitar player. Always has been and always will be as far as I'm concerned. And you know, we hadn't done anything that ever really turned him loose on a tune. And then, of course, you know, when we played it live, you know, we extended it about 3 or 4 minutes to just let him just get out there and ride on it. Mm-hmm. And just a great player. And anyway, so that's actually how we kind of come up with it.
Did Alabama think about recording it, or did they pass on it, or do you know?
You know, I don't really know. I don't know whether they did or whether they didn't. I know that when I asked Robert about it, you know, we were not even having a song. It was in between records, so we were not even listening at that time. And I told him, "Man, did y'all get that song finished?" He goes, "Yeah, we did. I said, "Man, you still thinking about pitching our way?" He goes, "Yeah, man. Yeah, we'll see." And that really was about the extent of until it come, you know, the song listening thing. You know, the next one we had before we did the Extra Mile album.
Well, speaking of Alabama, I guess I need to get your thoughts on Jeff Cook, who just passed away. You know, from a band that has also lost a member of its own. You can kind of relate to what those guys are going through. What were your thoughts when you heard that?
Well, you know, I knew that Jeff had been in bad shape for a pretty good while. I've seen him a few times, and of course, me and Teddy would talk, and I'd ask him how Jeff was doing. You know, and he'd said, "Well, you know, he's getting pretty rough." I said, "Is he able to go out with y'all at all?" He goes, "Well, he comes out every once in a while." I said, "Marty, he just comes out. He don't do anything. He can't, you know. But he is. Look, he's still part of us, and he'll come out there and make an appearance. He'll get out there and wave, and and everybody, let him know how much, they love him and stuff. But, Alabama had opened the doors for a lot of us. The Restless Hearts, the Little Texas, Ricochet, Sawyer Brown, Diamond Rio. They opened the door for a lot of acts like ours. And, if they hadn't have, I guess maybe somewhere down the line that would have opened up. But they certainly were the flagship that made it possible for everybody to believe that a self-contained country act could actually, have a deal and do something in the business. And I tell you, man, Joe Galani over at RCA and his whole staff, Jack Weston and the rest of them, man, they were very, very smart cookies to sign those guys. And they made musical history. I mean, they really did. I mean, so many things that had happened in country music had literally never been done before. And and Alabama, broke the way for a lot of people, but certainly for self-contained acts like us.
They paved the way for you. Who would you say your biggest influence was?
Now, you talking group-wise or individual-wise?
Yeah, whoever. Doesn't matter.
Man, I was such a fan of listening to stuff that was really good harmony-wise. Man, I love the Osborne Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
The Osborne Brothers are the ones that did Rocky Top and several other, my favorite memory and stuff like that. But I also was a big Stanley Brother fan and loved Johnny Paycheck. And of course, I don't think you could find a country music singer that, male especially, that didn't love Jones and Haggard. Vern Godston, man, he was a guy that was out in the early years, probably in 72, 73, 74, somewhere around there. His name was Mundo Earwood. And, man, he had a tune called A Pyramid of Cans. And, man, that was during the time, when we were playing bluegrass music. But that's the kind of stuff. Him and John Wesley Riles. John Wesley Riles had a tune called K. I'm living, Lord, I'm dying, staring out at Music City from my cab. And that's the stuff that was popular at radio at that time. Of course, Conway and Loretta and Porter and Dolly and George and Tammy. There was a lot of duets from them in that era. And, there was just a lot that influenced me. And somebody asked me one time who I thought the greatest country music singer was. I don't know that anybody can name. I can't. Because, first off, I think it comes down to preference and whatever somebody likes. Jones and Haggard had done an album together and, where they split up and they done each other's hits. Haggard would sing a George Jones hit and on this album, Jones would sing a Haggard hit. Mm-hmm. And, you listen to it and you go, like, I always get lucky with you, and I thought Jones had wrote the book on that.
Yeah.
And then then on this album, Haggard singing, I get wait a minute.
That's pretty good too.
Wait a cotton pick a minute. So it's all. I think it's just all preference. And look, I think great music always continues to stand, and great artists that has a talent, I think they'll always stand as well too. I think there's always a place in the country music history that'll mark a spot for an individual that's got there. I really do believe that.
People talk about their Mount Rushmore, their top four. Can you do that? Can you narrow it down to a top four?
Yeah, I probably could. I'd probably say Bobby Osborne, Ralph Stanley, probably George and Merle.
Okay. I like that list. Get a little bluegrass in there. Classic country. Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah, because, the first time I'd ever heard When the Grass Grows Over Me, I didn't hear Jones's cut of that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I'd heard the Osborne Brothers cut of it. And, they'd cut it. And I thought, man, what a great song. And then all of a sudden, oh, man, they must have got that from Jones. And of course, when he did it, man, oh, man, that's good, too.
And did you say My Favorite Memory was one of those, too?
Yeah, My Favorite Memory, in fact, a little story about that. They had released My Favorite Memory in 1968, And that was the A side of a flip single. You know, what was at that time was a real single. You know, where a 45 went to radio stations, you had, you know, your A side was the song you were pushing, and the B side was what they called the flip side.
Uh-huh.
And anyway, so on the second side of that, the B side was Rocky Top. You know, you had DJs that through the night, you know, they were playing My Favorite Memory, but you know, then in the evenings, you know, a lot of the night jocks were playing the flip side. And then the next day, somebody, hey man, play that Rocky Top by the Osborne Brothers. They go, Rocky Top. And then it got to finding out, and then Rocky Top, you know, was the bloomer. You know, it was the Sneaky Pete that come out of those recordings, and it was really pretty neat. It really was. It you know, Sonny Osborne told me that story, and that really actually was. You know, like you, I like stories, you know, that you hear the behind the scenes stuff on.
Oh yeah.
And said, man, if it hadn't been for, you know, a couple of fellas flipping that record over, we'd have never had the career we had. But Rocky Top is what did it for us.
That's what I love about doing this show and talking to you and folks just like you, is I learn something every single time. 35th anniversary of Shenandoah this year, and they're on tour right now. What can they expect when they come out?
Well, you know, we're going to try to bring, you know, high energy and get folks involved, and you know, have folks listening and being a part of it, and you know, because you know, that way at the end of the show, you know, they got to be a part of a show instead of just sitting and witnessing one. You know, when people hire us, they hire us, you know, to entertain people. You know, so we go in as entertainers. So therefore, I think that's what you need to do. You know, contractually, you know, we can sit up there and do the 90 minutes and the 2 hours and leave and you know, a promoter or a buyer not get mad. But we don't play for the promoter or the buyer. You know, we play for people. That's where we want to get. We want to get with people, and you know, and have them enjoy the show. And at the end of the evening, if we've done that, then hopefully people will realize that they actually were a part of the show instead of just sitting and witnessing one.
The new song is called Revival. We're going to get a hold of that. We're going to give that some spins as well. And when can we expect the new album out, you think? Do you have a guess for us when you think that might be?
Yeah, it'll probably be the later part of the spring. I'm not sure. I don't know whether it'd be May or June. But it'll be deep, a little deep in the year instead of the first part of it.
And is the album title going to be the same as the single? You calling that Revival as well, or?
Yeah, probably. It's probably going to be Revival.
Marty Raybon has been our guest, lead singer of Shenandoah. Marty, it means a lot to me that you'd come on my show for a second time. I hope you have a wonderful new year. I know big things are in store for Shenandoah in 2023, and I'm excited for it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Glenn. Same to you too, buddy. And hopefully we'll get to see you here for too long, bro.